Mike, what you up to today? Well, today we're going to get back into the garden. We need to plant the tomatoes today. So this morning, while the sun is just coming up, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go ahead and get these tomatoes in the ground. I have two different types of tomatoes I'm going to plant. They're going to be the Tachi and the Mountain Glory. So I'm going to do a 25-foot row of the tomatoes today. So let's go down to the garden. Let's take a look and see where we're going to be putting these tomatoes. Here we are down at the garden. As you can see, those pepper plants we planted a few days ago, they're doing fine. I haven't lost any, so that's really good. Typically I may lose a plant or two when I put the transplants in the ground, but so far everything is still there. But anyway, back to the tomatoes. Right next to these tomatoes here is where we plan to put those, excuse me, next to the peppers, we're planning to put the tomato plants. So first thing what I would like to do is if this is the first time that you've seen my videos, I like to mark my drip. I've already put the drip in the ground. So down here we find the drip. I'll find it on both ends of the garden, which I'm going to have to dig down with my hand on this end, and we'll find that end. Okay, now that we have found the start of the drip coming out of the header, I like to use a tent stake and paracord, bright paracord, to mark where that drip is, so I don't hit it with my shovel when I dig the holes to put these tomatoes in. So I'm going to stretch this line all the way down to the other end and find the end of the drip. I found the end of the drip in this row. I went ahead and placed a tent spike or stake, ran the paracord, and that's where my drip line is. So when I take my shovel to dig these holes, I won't hit the drip line. I placed the paracord just right of the drip line. I didn't place it right on top, but I placed it just right. It gives me a little bit of extra space, so I make sure I don't hit it. But that's how I do it. I went ahead and placed my tomatoes where I'd like to plant them. So I have them spaced down this row, somewhat even. They're pretty close to even. So now I just need to go ahead and dig these holes, and then we'll place those tomatoes in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the spade in kind of far back from that drip, pop the ground a little bit. And I'm gonna place this soil right there next to the plant. And continue down. And remember, I placed this paracord on this side of the drip, so the drip should be right here. And, you have to be careful. I mean, this is certainly not foolproof. I mean, you can still screw it up. So you have to take your time and not get crazy with it. Just like so. Now, when I went down to the other end to look for the other end of the drip, I was thinking, you know, I could even make this even easier with that tent stake and paracord. One way I could do it, I think next time, is before I bury the drip, I'll mark it on that end. And I won't have to look so much for the end of it because it's buried. already have it marked. So I think I'll try that next time. I think that'll even be better. And also, when we finish placing these tomatoes in the holes, I'm gonna go ahead and fertilize when I'm done. I also need to fertilize those cherry tomatoes that I put on the trellis a few days ago. So I'll fertilize those as well. Now these tomato plants are kind of big, not real big, but they're getting big. And I like to plant them at least a third to half inch, not half inch, but halfway. I like to put a lot of the plant underground. The reason I do that is if I'm gonna do this with these small plants, relatively small anyway, I don't want the wind to break them. That gives them time to root really well if they're in the ground deep. They get a lot more stability in the plant. You don't have to worry about when you have strong winds come through and you don't have them staked yet, they're going to break. So I like to plant them a little deep. Because you probably already know, the stem of the tomato will have roots shooting off the side of it. So far so good. I haven't screwed up. Nailed my drip. I'm going a little deeper than I need to, but it's nice to kind of loosen up the soil underneath it, get it aerated a little bit. And here I'm at the end, last one. Still roots in here from last year. That root chunk out. Now let's get dirty. All right. Now, do I worry about plucking off the bottom? You saw those two small limbs on the bottom? Not really. I don't think you need to worry about that. Place it in there. I think it does more harm myself, I don't know if I'm right or not, to do damage to the plant and then expose it to soil. I think you're better off just to put it in the ground where you don't have like an open wound where we'll call it infection goes in there. So I just leave it like it is. I push the soil around there. Whoop. And it's low to the ground, the plant, so I don't have to worry so much about wind. It'll get nice and strong. Get a good root base and it'll be able to handle the Mother Nature. I know you're going to say, well, your leaves are on the ground. Yeah, they are. I don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. I haven't had trouble with that. What you're thinking with getting some kind of disease on there? At least I haven't, not yet. They do just fine. Okay, that's how I plant the tomatoes. I'm not going to bore you with going down the rest, but when we finish up, I'll go ahead and shoot a video and let you see what it looks like, okay? So we'll be back in a few minutes. Well, I thought I would stop and let you see my progress thus far. I've planted the Tachi tomatoes. And now I'm up here with the Mountain Glories. And now I need to place those in the ground. Now you can see how far down I did plant them. And I didn't prune the bottoms of them, I just put them in the ground. I think they do better, my opinion. That if you don't break off anything, don't expose any open areas of the plant to take in a disease. So I'm gonna continue on and plant these 4. My tomatoes are planted. The first 4 up here are the Mountain Glory again. And then in the back there are the Tachi. Both these varieties again come from HOSS tools. But now let's talk about the fertilizer. I'm gonna go ahead and fertilize these. And I'm gonna try a new fertilizer I've never tried before. It's by Dr. Earth. It's a tomato and pepper and herb fertilizer, so I'm gonna give that a shot. So I'm just gonna take a handful and go around each plant. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna sprinkle this on top of the soil around the plant. Just like that. And when I'm done, I'm gonna get my 2-gallon water can and water all this in. And I think I'll do this periodically through the season. I'm doing this one-handed. That's how I'm doing it. I'm gonna finish this row and then we'll come back and water it in. I have it all fertilized now. I went ahead and did the peppers as well. Now I went over here and fertilized the cherry tomatoes. And we'll wrap up with watering everything in. I just did a light watering over everything due to the soil being so damp. Now when I finish up with the tomatoes, I went ahead and went to the pepper plants and watered those in as well. In here I'll just finish off with the watering in of the cherry tomatoes. That was the last thing that I fertilized in the garden. Thanks for watching.